I'm going to be showing you today how to play Shadow Priest in patch 11.1 of the War Within Season 2. This is one of my absolute favourite classes. I think you're going to love it. It is super duper chaotic and really beginner friendly. If you like the UI you see here, by the way, you can get this on my Patreon. I get you the complete UI details, etc. profiles. Let's jump straight into it. So I'm going to add some action bars just so that we can fully see what is going on here. The way I do this is, if you're new here, the left is the top priority and the right is the lowest priority. And we will go through both raiding and Mythic Plus rotations, or single target and AoE. So the first thing we're going to do is put our dots on the target, which is damage over time spells. We do this by casting Vampiric Touch. As you'll see, it puts Vampiric Touch on the target and also Shadow Word Pain. So your Vampiric Touch will put both of these on the target. We want to keep these dots up on the target at all times. So, let's actually just read through the tooltip because there's some more to learn here. A touch of darkness that causes shadow damage over 21 seconds and heals you for some of the damage dealt. Now, one thing to note here is that it generates 4 insanity. Can you see on the weak aura here, it says 4, and it's this bar here too. This is insanity, and this is our main resource as a shadow priest. Some of our spells, like our dots, etc., will be generating insanity, and then we're pretty much just spending them on Devouring Plague, which is another dot I'll be talking about later. But that is the main resource that you need to worry about as a Shadow Priest. It's pretty straightforward, really. Second priority, we've actually got some cooldowns we're going to be using. Shadow Fiend summons the Shadowy Fiend to attack your target, and it generates insanity while it's attacking. So we're going to do that as soon as we go into combat. And then after that, we're going to cast Dark Ascension. Increases your non-periodic shadow damage by 20% for 20 seconds and generates some insanity as well, where you basically get these amazing angel wings and, well, fallen angel. It's very, very cool. After that, we're then going to use Power Infusion, another cooldown. So you pretty much use all these cooldowns together. Shadow Fiend is on a 3-minute cooldown, this one is a 1-minute cooldown, and this one's on a 2-minute cooldown. So they're not always going to pair up, but try to when you can. A really interesting thing about Power Infusion is this talent here, hidden away in the Priest talent tree. Twins of the Sun Priestess. Oh my god. Sorry, I have a cold. I always seem to have a cold when WoW season comes around. So every time you watch me, I play have a different voice. Power Infusion also grants you its effect at 100% value when used on an ally. If no ally is targeted, it will grant its effect at 100% value to a nearby ally, preferring damage dealers. Meaning, if you use this on yourself, it will choose a nearby ally for you. If you use it on an ally, it will go on that ally. However, it will always give it to the ally and you. It used to be that you had to target an ally. Now it's actually even better where it does it passively. What I would suggest is either use it on yourself and let it do its thing passively, but in an ideal world, you would use it on your highest damage dealer that isn't yourself. But if you're a beginner and you're like, you don't want to think about that extra step, then just cast it and it'll automatically cast it passively on someone near it. What does it actually do? I don't think I even told you what it does. It increases your haste by 20% for 15 seconds, so speeds things up a lot. So just to recap so far, we're going to use Vampiric Touch to get our dots up on the target. We're then going to use our cooldowns. If we can, we're then going to use Devouring Plague. Now, this actually uses Insanity. So we want to use this if it either isn't up on the target or if we're about to cap out on Insanity. If you are in Mythic Plus, you do want to get your dots up on everyone. There's going to be another way to do this later that I'll show you. It does cost 55 insanity for Devouring Plague. So there we go. I've got enough insanity now. I can now use my Devouring Plague. Afflicts a target with a disease that instantly causes damage plus an additional amount over 12 seconds and also heals you for some of it. If the effect is reapplied, any remaining damage will be added, meaning it just kind of adds it on. After that, we have Mind Blast. You have 2 charges of this. As you can see, it's going round. Never cap out on charges because it's a waste. So the reason I have it twice on the action bar here is at this point here, you want to use it if you're capped on charges, and then you're using it here with any remaining charges, okay? In the middle, we're going to use our Void Torrent. However, again, only use Void Torrent if your Mind Blast won't cap out between using the spell. So the way I'd say this is I've got two charges of Mind Blast, so I'm going to use Mind Blast Then I'm going to use my Void Torrent, which, by the way, because of the hero talents, we're now going to get Void Blast on our Mind Blast. But you can see it's about to cap out, and therefore we're going to use it. We can't use Void Torrent, and so we're going to use our second charge of Mind Blast or Void Blast anyway. And it kind of works like that. So channel a torrent of void energy into the target, dealing damage over 3 seconds, and it generates a lot of insanity. After that, we're going to use Shadow Word Death. We're only going to use it basically in 2 circumstances here. That is, if the target is below 20% health, or if we get a Death Speaker proc, which is this talent here. Your Shadow Word Pain damage, which you're putting on a Vampiric Touch, has a chance to reset the cooldown on Shadow Word Death, increase its damage, and deal damage as if striking a target below 20% health. Damage is increased by 250% if the target is below 20% health. So let's just go over the rotation one more time. Keep up your dots of Vampiric Touch. Get up your Mind Bender, or Shadow Fiend even. Use your Dark Ascension, use your Power Infusion, keep up Devouring Plague, use Mind Blast to make sure you don't cap on stacks, and then use your Void Torrent, and then use any remaining stacks of Void Blast or Mind Blast, depending on what it is. Keep up your dots, remember, they're about to come off. And it kind of just goes around like this. And then we're going to be using our Shadow Word Death when we get a proc of it. And after that, we're going to use Mind Spike. This will sometimes turn into Mind Spike Insanity. And you're going to use that whenever you get it as a low priority. This is when you know Death Speaker has procced. You'll get these little lines going around your Shadow Word Death. That is where they are at the priority still. You're only using it here, remember, if it's at 20% health or lower. And or you have the Death Speaker proc. So this is basically how the rotation goes. And here we go. It's actually a really nice it's a really nice rotation. I actually really love it. I think it's very beginner friendly, very simple to follow, and really, really fun and chaotic. So you can actually go oh, God, I'll get too into this now. You can actually go with Archon hero talents if you like, but because we are a Shadow Priest, I really love to go with Void Weaver. It just makes sense, you know, being a Shadow Priest to go Void Weaver. Archon being a bit more holy just doesn't really make any sense to me personally for the, you know, the kind of role playing of that we're doing in World of Warcraft as a Shadow Priest. Now that we've got the rotation down to a T, let's have a look at the talents that underpin it. Shadowy Apparitions, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, etc. Conjure shadowy apparitions that float towards your target, that are afflicted by Vampiric Touch, critical strikes to increase the damage. So you're going to see these shadowy apparitions floating towards your target passively. That's what's that. This is where Misery, oh lovely, love a bit of misery, don't we? Vampiric Touch also applies Shadow Word Pain to the target. And we have the healing that you get from Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague. If you're at maximum health, it's actually going to shield you instead, so it's really, really good. Your direct damage spells inflict some of their damage onto other targets with Vampiric Touch. So basically, if I have Vampiric Touch on this one, that's it onto nearby anyway, and this one, and then I do a Mind Blast, it's actually going to affect the targets that have Mind Blast anyway. Oh, look, there's the Shadowy Apparitions. It's such a beautiful deck, it really is. Shadow Word Pain has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Mind Blast and cause it to be instant. So whenever you see a proc on your Mind Blast, use it. Because of where we are in the rotation with using Mind Blast charges anyway, if you see it proc and suddenly it's instant, you know, you're going to be using it as a pretty high priority anyway, so this kind of fits already into the rotation, but just be aware you will get free procs on your Mind Blasts. Your Mind Flame, Mind Spike, and Void Torrent increase the damage of periodic shadow effects, stack up to 5 times. That's kind of passive and happening anyway. Death Speaker we've already spoken about. Now, this is a really important one. If you're wondering about using Mind Spike as a low priority, you're going to be using it more than you think, because Mind Melt here, Mind Spike increases the critical strike chance of Mind Blast by 30%, stacking up to 3 times. So when I use my Mind Spike, we're actually going to be getting stacks down here of Mind Melt, where my next Mind Blast crit chance is now increased by 90%. So you really want to be kind of cycling through your Mind Spikes. Don't think of it as just like, oh, it's just a rubbish lowest priority spell. Once you're getting down here, you are going to be wanting to use it to get your next Mind Blast, you know, in between your Mind Blasts, to actually get that crit chance up and get really big Mind Blast hits. And then lastly, we have the Idol of Siphon. Mind Flame, Mind Spike, and Void Torrent have a chance to spawn a Void tendril that channels Mind Flame at your target, etc. And you'll just see those cropping up damage to your enemies as well. Lastly, onto the hero talents. Entropic Rift. Your Void Torrent tears open a rift, following your enemies, and they get damage when they're caught in it. We then have Void Blast. Entropic Rift upgrades your Mind Blast into Void Blast, which generates more insanity and does more damage. And then we've got Collapsing Void. Each time you cast Devouring Plague, the Rift is empowered, increasing its damage and size. And after it collapses, it deals massive damage to all nearby enemies. So whenever you use your Void Torrent, there's that tendril. You're going to get a Void Blast instead of Mind Blast. You still use it in the same point in the rotation. And here is that big old Entropic Rift. You can see it growing and then collapsing there as I was speaking about. It's a really, really amazing rotation. I love it. If we now move over to the Mythic Plus rotation, we're not really doing a lot here. We are taking the Silence talent, which is an interrupt on a 45-second cooldown, so you can interrupt your enemy spellcasting. And then we also get Shadow Crash. You can choose either one here. If you choose the one on the left, basically it will cast it at your target, at the target's location, or with this one you could choose it at a selected location. So it's up to you which one you choose here, whichever is easier to play as. So like if I use it, it's on my keybind down here, I can actually choose a location, whereas if I choose the other option, it will go on the target. So as you can see, massive crash, everyone in it is going to get Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain. You use that as your top priority, rather than using Vampiric Touch, unless you are on a boss and you only have like one enemy. You could just use Shadow Crash instead to get everyone Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on them. And that's a great way to do that, and that's your number one priority in Mythic Plus. After that, the rotation is, it's pretty much the same. You use Halo as a really fairly high priority as well on a 1-minute cooldown. Creates a ring of shadow energy around you, quickly expanding and healing allies and obviously doing damage to enemies. You can just use that on cooldown. The rest of the rotation is pretty much the same, as everything's be doing AoE damage anyway, and that is really the only changes you will be making. Lastly, let's just go through quickly the utilities that we have. So we've got Desperate Prayer, which is a self-heal. We have Dispel Magic, dispelling a beneficial magic effect on an enemy. Really great in Mythic Plus. Powered Fortitude, you're probably aware of. Master Spell is an amazing utility, one of the best in the entire game. This will dispel magic effects on all of your allies in this area, rather than doing it individually like other healers and DPS can do. You can really help out your healer with this. It's going to be mandatory to help out with that in Mythic Plus. Psychic Scream will make everyone run away, your enemies obviously. We have Vampiric Embrace, filling you with the embrace of shadow energy, causing you to heal a nearby ally for 50% of any single target spell damage. You can do this in raiding in Mythic Plus to help out your healers. It's on a 1.5-minute cooldown, and in times where massive healing is needed, you can use this while DPSing to basically get some extra healing out. We also have Levitate, which is good in dungeons and stuff sometimes to negate fall damage, and Angelic Feather is really good. You can make a macro with this. I think I have it macroed. Number 6 here, so basically I can place an Angelic Feather, place another one, and when you run over this, you then get a speed increase, or an ally will. If you use a macro, like I think the one I have down here is, this macro, you could just copy this one. See this here? It says hashtag show tooltip Angelic Feather, /cast, bracket, @player, close bracket, Angelic Feather, and then /stop spell target. That will cast the Angelic Feather at your own feet automatically. So if you see her running, and it's automatically cast it at my feet. Really useful macro to have there if you're only using it on yourself. And lastly, we have Leap of Faith, which pulls a raid or party member to you. Can be massively, massively overpowered, that one as well. There you go, guys. That is how you play Shadow Priest in Season 2 of The War Within. Again, if you would like the UI, you can get it on Patreon. It massively helps support this channel. I really, really appreciate it. And we can also give you some extra help, etc. in Discord. Don't forget to subscribe. I do actually do quite a lot On this channel, as you can see, I do every single spec. I've done War Within PvP guides. You can see here, Season 1, 65 videos. I do every single spec, every single season. Pre-patch guides I do as well. I do WoW Classic and Cataclysm as well. I'll be doing Mr. Pandaria if you play that. I do also run the Javi Herobrine channel. If you're also into other games, this is my Minecraft channel. Do check this one out. It's all for modded Minecraft, and I teach everyone how to play mods in there. And I do also have my new channel, Javi How To, which I've repurposed into a variety gaming guides channel. So do check out this one if you're looking for all of the latest releasing games and how to get guides on those.